The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and Marcus Chen's world tilted on its axis. She was Elena, his ex-wife of 4 months, standing in the lobby of his company's headquarters. But it wasn't just Elena. Her once familiar silhouette now curved gently beneath a flowing emerald dress, unmistakably pregnant. The coffee cup slipped from his fingers, shattering against the marble floor as 37 floors of corporate success suddenly felt meaningless. "You hid this from me?" The words escaped his lips before his rational mind could stop them, raw and accusatory in the echoing silence of the pristine lobby. Elena's hand instinctively moved to protect her belly, her dark eyes flashing with the same fire he'd fallen in love with 8 years ago. "Hidden?" "Marcus, I've been calling your office for weeks. Your assistant said you were too busy for personal matters." The weight of those words hit him like a physical blow. Too busy. He'd built an empire worth hundreds of millions, commanded boardrooms across 3 continents, but he'd been too busy for the woman who'd once been his everything. The irony wasn't lost on him that she stood now in the lobby of Chen Dynamics, the company he'd nearly destroyed their marriage to build. "How far along?" His voice cracked, executive composure crumbling as he knelt to pick up the broken porcelain, each shard a reminder of how he'd shattered everything good in his life. 6 months. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it thundered in his ears. 6 months. That meant. His mind raced backward through calendar pages of missed dinners, cancelled anniversaries, and the final fight that had ended everything. The timing aligned perfectly with their last night together before she'd asked for the separation. Security guards appeared, efficiently cleaning the mess he'd made, but Marcus barely noticed. His entire focus centered on the woman before him, carrying what might be his child. The woman he'd loved so deeply that losing her had nearly broken him. The woman whose absence had turned his penthouse into a mausoleum of regrets. Is it? He couldn't finish the question, terrified of both possible answers. Elena's expression softened, years of shared history flickering across her features. "Yes, Marcus, she's yours." She, a daughter. Marcus felt his knees buckle as the full impact crashed over him. Not only had he lost his wife, but he'd missed 6 months of his daughter's existence. 6 months of doctor appointments, ultrasounds, midnight conversations with Elena's growing belly. 6 months of a miracle he'd been too proud and too hurt to witness. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" The question came out gentler now, filled with genuine anguish rather than accusation. Elena's composure finally cracked, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Because I was scared, Marcus. Scared you'd think I was trying to trap you, to use the baby to save our marriage. When you didn't return my calls, I thought you didn't want to know." The lobby around them faded into insignificance. Other executives hurried past, speaking in hushed tones into their phones. But Marcus existed only in this bubble of devastating revelation. How had he become the kind of man who would abandon his pregnant wife? When had success become more important than the person who'd supported every dream, who'd believed in him when he was just a kid from Queens with big ideas and empty pockets? "Elena, He struggled for words that could bridge 4 months of silence, 6 months of missed pregnancy, 8 years of slowly choosing work over love. "I never stopped loving you," she laughed bitterly, one hand still protective over her belly. "Love isn't enough, Marcus. It never was. You loved me, but you loved your company more. You loved me, but you couldn't leave the office for our anniversary dinner. You loved me, but you scheduled conference calls during my father's funeral." Each accusation was a dagger, made sharper by its absolute truth. Marcus had been there physically for the funeral, but his mind had been dissecting quarterly projections. He'd held her hand while mentally rehearsing his presentation for the board meeting the next morning. "I was building our future," he whispered, the excuse sounding hollow even to his own ears. "No," Elena said firmly, strength returning to her voice. "You were building your empire. I wanted a partner, not a provider. I wanted someone who would choose me, choose us, even when it was inconvenient." A commotion near the elevators caught Marcus's attention. His assistant, Jennifer, hurried toward them with an expression of panic. Behind her trailed 3 board members and a potential investor from Tokyo at the meeting that had consumed his thoughts for weeks, the deal that would expand Chen Dynamics into Asian markets. "Mr. Chen, the conference room is ready." "Mr. Tanaka is waiting," Jennifer said breathlessly, clearly aware she was interrupting something intensely personal but bound by professional obligation. This was it, the moment that defined him. The choice between the merger that would cement his legacy and the woman carrying his child. 4 months ago, there would have been no contest. The company always came first. Success justified every sacrifice. But looking at Elena, seeing the exhaustion in her eyes, the loneliness she tried to hide, Marcus realized that his empire was built on the ruins of everything that actually mattered. He was the richest man he knew, and the poorest in all the ways that counted. "Jennifer," he said quietly, never taking his eyes off Elena, "reschedule the meeting. Tell Mr. Tanaka I'll fly to Tokyo next week." "This is more important." Jennifer's jaw dropped. "Sir, he's flying back tonight. This deal represents 18 months of negotiations. If we postpone here, then we postpone." Marcus's voice carried the authority that had built his fortune, but for the first time, he was using it to choose love over profit. "Some things can't be rescheduled, Jennifer. Some opportunities, once lost, never come back." Elena stared at him in shock, and Marcus saw something flicker in her eyes, not hope exactly, but perhaps the first crack in the wall between them. He stepped closer, close enough to smell her perfume, the same one she'd worn since their second date. "Elena, I know I have no right to ask this, but can we talk? Really talk? I want to know everything about the pregnancy, about how you're feeling, about whether there's any chance." He swallowed hard. "Whether there's any chance for us." For a long moment, Elena said nothing. The lobby bustled around them, his cancelled meeting sending ripples of confusion through his executive team, but Marcus waited. He'd spent 4 months in agony, wondering if leaving had been her biggest mistake or her greatest escape. Now he might finally have his answer. "One conversation," she said finally, "but not here, not in the shadow of everything that came between us. There's a little cafe tilde copyright on 5th Street, Mama Rosa's. Do you remember?" He smiled for the first time in months. Of course he remembered. It's where he'd proposed, where they'd shared countless Sunday mornings reading newspapers and dreaming about their future. A future he'd systematically destroyed with his ambition. "I remember everything, Elena, especially what I lost." As they walked towards the exit together, Marcus felt something shift inside his chest, a hope, fragile and tentative, but real. He'd built an empire, but perhaps it wasn't too late to build something far more precious, a family, a marriage worth saving, a life where love came first. Behind them, his assistant frantically worked her phone, damage control for the deal he'd just sacrificed. But Marcus didn't look back. For the first time in years, he was walking toward something that mattered more than success. He was walking toward the chance to be the man his daughter would be proud to call father, the husband Elena had always deserved. The afternoon sun streamed through the glass doors as they stepped outside together, and Marcus dared to hope that some broken things could still be made whole.